So we're switching gears and we're jumping back over to a workshop build. Earlier this spring I started working on this workshop. And this week I'm hoping to pour the slab. So the first thing we had to do for this concrete slab is put some wire mesh down. And we did this with some big rolls of wire mesh that we had left over from an older job. They come in 7'6" wide, and so it's not really all that easy to work with, but we had it left over, so I would like to see it go away. So we cut them to length, and I made them a touch longer because they're really hard to take the bend out of. They want to roll back up on themselves. So with this, I cut them and kind of stuffed them under the ICFs, and that held them in place. And then I went through and tied the rebar together where they overlapped, and that held them in place. So with that installed, we went ahead and started on the screed boards. This is the front screed board, and so all we did was come up with some 2x4s and some leftover siding. You can see we used some Tapcon screws to tie them to the concrete, and then here you see me putting in tying the 16-foot 2x4s together, and that was our screed board for the outside. As you can see, the wire mesh is about 4 inches away, and from there. So here we are setting the this is the trench drain, and I kind of built it like a mini wall, but kind of formed it up so to keep the concrete where it needs to be. And this is in the first bay of the garage, so kind of set it up, and there we go. So from here, concrete stake time. Concrete stakes, they just get put in, and I like to put all the concrete stakes in first, get them all placed where they need to go, sometimes about 3 to 4 feet apart, depending on how your ground is, but 2x4s are pretty light. So from here we went ahead and put the screed boards there. Anna was holding the boards up a little bit higher than finished grade, and we put in some duplex concrete nails into the concrete stakes to the wood. And then we went ahead and tapped the concrete stakes down to the final grade that we wanted the concrete to be set at. As you can see, Anna's hitting the concrete stake, and with the transit we can make that happen. Here's, we took some concrete pavers, broke them up, and elevated the wire mesh so it wasn't sitting on the very bottom of the concrete. So I'm right now watered the slab down, got it pretty much wet, but we're ready to go. We got a bunch of guys. When you do a concrete day, it's all hands on deck, and if you got 4 or 5 guys that can work together and know what they need to be doing, placing concrete becomes a lot easier. So we started in the back bay, went ahead, concrete trucks putting it in there. We got a couple of rakes going, we got a couple of guys on the screed board. We chalked a line on the outside of the ICF blocks, which gave us a line to work from that, obviously we didn't have a screed board there, so we just kind of went right down that bay and started in the next one, and we just continued on. We did the first 3 bays first, and just got the concrete placed. It's a lot of work putting in all this concrete. It's really only a couple hours that you're probably actually placing the concrete, but it's really good hard work. The 2 guys on the screed board are working their butt off. So we get started on this 3rd bay here. Like I said, we rake it out, get it kind of to a final grade, start screeding, keep working its way down, and that's how it kind of rolls. So I think this is the end of the second truck that we had. Then after that, we go ahead and we remove the first screed board because we were done there. So as you can see, we lift the concrete stakes and the 2x, get it right out of the form. Then we go add a little bit of mud and get that thing ready to tamp down and get ready for make sure that's nice and level with the rest of the pad. So you can see the one guy in the back. He is he's got a tamper and he's just tamping the big rocks down, working the mud to the surface, and it's a pretty easy step, but it's a lot of work as well. They make a one you can roll, but that's the manual one, and it's a lot of work, that little tamping system. Then we can get that second screed board taken out of the main pour, which there it goes. And now that that's gone, we can go ahead and fill that back in and really start working on that main big slab on the one side. So right there, putting a little more mud, and they are tamping it, that seam, working the rocks to the below the surface. Comes back and hits a few more places that needed it. And then from there, see that back and forth trowel action. That is actually a magnesium bowl float, and what that does is actually helps get the cream to the surface and smooths out any kind of imperfections that you have in the slab. A lot of times if your slab's, you know, small enough, you can go both directions with it, but with this one there's only one way we could go, which turned out just fine. Got all the concrete placed, got the last screed board out over there, so we're just finishing up that last bay. Once we're done there, then we can go ahead and start tuning up maybe that front edge for filling in some concrete. So the final step of actually finishing the pad out is for this big of a slab is a power trowel. Here I'm going ahead and I'm power troweling the top of the slab, and what this does is it's a machine. It has 4 big blades, and you can turn the pitch up on the blades, but essentially what it does is as the concrete gets harder and harder and harder, it finally sets up. It's really hard to finish out by hand on the big slabs, so this is a power trowel. What this does is it just rotates around and around, and you're basically just troweling the floor and you're working it back and forth. This is kind of the later processes of it, but you can keep the power trowel on the concrete as long as you want. The longer you do it, the smoother it'll get. It saves a lot of work in hand troweling a slab, and this is one of your best friends for finish out a big slab. Slab turned out pretty good. Yeah, it's really exciting to see it at this stage. Definitely a lot of work, but well worth it. Yeah, so I'm really excited to keep working on this project. Hopefully we can get some walls framed this week and maybe a roof later. Yeah, so stay tuned, and we'll see if we can get it done. Thanks for watching this week, and we'll see you next week.